This is the Everything EV podcast by EV Powered.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Everything EV podcast, the podcast dedicated to everything electric. I'm your host, Charlie Atkinson, and in these episodes we'll be discussing everything to do with electric travel. So whether it be cars, bikes, boats, or even planes, we'll have it covered. We'll also be speaking to people from within the industry to get their views on the EV space, as well as other features such as electric car reviews, electric motorsport coverage, and much, much more along the way. This podcast is available on all streaming platforms, so be sure to subscribe to wherever you get your podcast from to receive every single episode as soon as it's released, and please do go back and check out all our other episodes too. In this episode, I speak to Asher Bennett, the CEO and founder of Tevva, manufacturers of hydrogen electric trucks. Asher joins the podcast to discuss the benefits of adding hydrogen fuel cells to electric trucks, as well as sharing his story behind the company and how submarines inspired the business. So yeah, Asher, welcome to the podcast, first of all. Now, I was doing a bit of digging on your website, doing a bit of research prior to this interview, and the big message I got from your website is that the mission, it's all about purpose when it comes to Tevva. So if we could just start there, and what is the purpose and the mission of the company?
Well, we are technologists that want to make an impact on humanity. We're now focusing on the world of hydrogen electric trucks and electric trucks. The reason is, if we look around today, we see so much variety of electric cars and so much uptake of electric cars. I think in the UK, the first half of this year, 16% of new cars were all electric. In Germany, it's now reaching 25%. I'm sure we're not so far behind here in the UK. It's amazing. Yet there are so few electric trucks on the road. And we're very focused on solving that problem with our unique technology.
Yeah, we'll come on to the technology in a little bit, but I was also doing a bit of research into yourself as well, and you've got a really interesting background. So I was just wondering if you could talk to us about that background and the sort of journey of your career and how it's led you to where you are today.
Well, briefly, my first career, I was a submarine officer. And I mentioned that, and the relevance to what we do today is my submarine was my first electric vehicle. So the whole bottom of the submarine was a big bank of batteries connected to a large electric motor, and it was an EV. Obviously, what we charged back at the base was not enough to go out for many weeks at a time. So we had an additional source of energy, dual energy, and also a very unique way of managing those two energy sources. It's that concept and that technologies that I brought over to the world of trucks to support the longer ranges.
So how does the technology and of the submarine, like you said there, how does that transfer over to what you guys are doing today and the same sort of philosophy of what you're trying to achieve?
So trucks need much longer ranges than cars do. And it's not about the ranges. It's like cars will stop during the day to charge, and they don't need to very often because the average car goes for 1 to 2 hours a day. Trucks want to go out for 8, 9, 10 hours and not have to stop and charge and look for a charger and hope that charger is not blocked by some random diesel car. Happens a lot. So at the base, our trucks are all electric, but we also offer the option of a backup energy source, which is the hydrogen fuel cell. In the world of submarines, what we charged back at base was not enough to go out weeks at a time. We had a second energy system, which was diesel generators. But that got me into thinking about running vehicles with two energy systems, because there's advantages to each one. In the world of submarines, we also planned ahead the energy levels for days and weeks at a time. We needed that for tactical reasons. The problem and the issues that with electric trucks is not necessarily the range. It's not necessarily the range you get out of the batteries. It's the variance of the range. So the same truck, if you're now fully loaded and you're climbing mountains and you're driving very fast and you don't have the best driver and you have a refrigeration system also on the back, you will get a lot less range on that full battery than if you're low weight, driving on a flat motorway at a very efficient speed with one of your better drivers. That's physics mostly. And we solve those issues of variances of range by having the hydrogen fuel cell backup system, the dual energy solution. Also, it's completely autonomous. It's controlled through the cloud, where we have a cloud-based system that is making smart decisions when and how to use the backup system, giving big advantages. For example, we try not to have to, by planning ahead, we can run the fuel cell at a lower power, but at a 22% higher efficiency. That's a lot. Also, we lengthen the life of the fuel cell by doing that, and also we lengthen the life of the battery. All great for running the trucks longer and for lowering the lifetime cost of operating the trucks.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about the different demands of an electric or electric and hydrogen truck as well, because when we talk about electric cars, the conversation a lot of the time is just what is the range and how long does it charge? But like you said, there are different demands for electric trucks. It's all about uptime and refrigeration, like I said, and the different climates and environments that they have to operate in. So do you think that side of the argument almost gets lost a lot of the time when people look at electric trucks? They just go, oh, that they can have the range that they need to do, but they almost forget about those different criterias, don't they?
Well, let's remember that the reality in passenger cars, whether it's an internal combustion engine and also obviously an all electric, is there's no such thing as a given absolute range for either fully charged battery or a full petrol tank. And if there are 5 people in the car and you're climbing mountains with the very fast with the air conditioner on, you'll easily get half the range, electric or petrol, than if one person is driving that car on a flat motorway at a very efficient 56 miles per hour. So, and we all know that, and that's why we have miles per gallon in the urban scenario and miles per gallon in motorway scenarios. In the world of trucks, that's even a bigger variance because of the big changes in payload. So even a fully loaded car with 5 passengers and a lot of baggage in the back, it's not as much a mass influence than a fully loaded truck compared to an empty truck. And of course, refrigeration and all those other things take a big input. And yes, climbing mountains is a big difference than driving on a flat surface. That's all physics. So in the world of vehicles, there's no such thing as that given range for a given amount of energy. But in the world of operating a diesel truck, you want a more efficient truck. You want to save fuel and emissions, but you're never, ever worried about getting the job done. Because you can always stop at a, petrol station and refuel the truck in a few minutes. When you move to the world of battery trucks, getting the job done is a major concern. And if it would have been much simpler if there was an absolute known range. Because there's no such thing, we see often that electric trucks are relegated to the shorter routes, and that's not optimal.
Mm. So would you say that the focus needs to be then on infrastructure and charging and making charging easier for electric trucks so that they, like you said, when you talk about diesel trucks, that they can stop at any given point, quickly refuel and then get back out again. So it makes getting the job done easier, but that's not the case for electric trucks. Or so would you say charging infrastructure is the focus there? Or
so I don't see for the I would like in passenger cars, it's very important. In truck operations, you won't typically trucks who are out there working for 8, 9, 10 hours a day won't want to go off, seeing a low state of charge in the truck, will want to go off route, drive a few miles looking for a charger, hoping it's available, hoping it's not blocked by some random vehicle, and sitting around for 30 minutes minimum for a top-up charge, then driving back onto the route and continuing. That is not the way trucks operate. They have to go out and work nonstop and work the plan. So fleet managers mostly want trucks to go out in the morning with a guarantee that they won't need to charge, and they will adapt to the right route for that, or which could then often be a very short route if it's a battery-only truck. Although when it's a battery truck in known operations, doing repetitive operations, typically in the flatter areas, the variance is less, and that works very nicely. Unless you can get to the level of chargers that there are chargers everywhere and they can charge a truck in 10 minutes, and we are far away from that, then more infrastructure is not the solution. The solution is making sure the truck in the first place has the range to do whatever job you're throwing at it for the day. And that's what we focus on at Tevva.
Yeah, it's really interesting to get your opinion and your sort of standpoint on it, because since we've been doing these podcasts, we've spoken to some people that, I know they're hydrogen fuel cells, but we've spoken to a lot of people that have said that battery electric vehicles and battery electric trucks can cope, and there's no reason why the future of logistics can't be fully electric. But we've also spoken to people that have said that there needs to be some sort of balance between electric and hydrogen. So it's really interesting to get your point of view on that debate.
Most players are taking either the all battery approach or the all hydrogen approach. We take the dual energy approach. So we believe in the greatness of lithium ion batteries. Technology works great. Grid electricity is relatively abundant and relatively cheap, but it covers most of your energy needs, but not all of your energy needs. And you can imagine sending out a truck in the morning that gets back to the base 29 out of 30 days a month is totally unacceptable. You have to completely remove the risk of getting back or adapt the truck to the right routes. We as a company, we make both battery only trucks and hydrogen electric trucks. The battery only are great for a certain subset of the routes out there, but we want to solve it for almost all the trucks out there, and hence we take the dual energy approach.
Yeah, I've got to say that the dual energy approach that you guys specialise in and that you're talking about now, it seems quite new to me. I've not heard too much about it before. So do you see, for this particular industry of logistics and decarbonising the future of trucks and logistics, like you said, do you see this as the long-term sustainable future for this industry, or do you think there is a future where it can be fully 100% electric in the long run?
The great thing is the technologies evolve. Batteries might get better, charging might get better, but so will fuel cells and hydrogen production. So we don't have to predict what the future will be in 10 and 15 years exactly. We can adjust over time the technology, so the sizing of the batteries, the sizing of the hydrogen fuel cell system, or get rid of the hydrogen fuel cell system based on the application of the truck. So is it doing refuse delivery? Is it doing a refrigeration delivery in a hot climate? Is it doing long distance? Is it doing urban delivery? And the geography, meaning what infrastructure is available. So if there are a lot of hydrogen fueling stations out there, that changes a lot too. So we don't have to, we are completely future-proofed, or more importantly, we can constantly adapt and give the right technology to our customers as infrastructure and technologies evolve over time. For the foreseeable future, you cannot solve it completely with an all battery truck, and also not with an all hydrogen truck. We really believe it has to be dual energy. So we take the best of battery technology, overcoming its downsides, and the best of hydrogen technology, overcoming its downsides.
Yeah, so you've touched on the USPs of your trucks and the dual energy system that you use between the batteries and the hydrogen fuel cells, but can you just touch on the specific sort of specifications of your trucks as well, please?
Electric cars work very well because they are fit for purpose. They do what a passenger car is meant to do. Trucks, we're not seeing that just yet. That's why there are so few. The industry, I'd like to say with us in the leadership role, are solving that. We're taking the approach of the dual energy, where the hydrogen, we could put double or triple the battery size. We make our own battery system. So we could double and triple the batteries on our trucks. That would give you a lot of range, but batteries of that size are very, very heavy, eating significantly into payload, the whole purpose of having a truck. Also, when you get to batteries of that, the many hundreds of kilowatt hour size, I say this in jest, but the charger will cost more than the truck. That's the reality. It's not a great solution. So we put medium-sized batteries that cover easily 80-90% of your energy needs. Not good enough, but we back it up with hydrogen. Why not all hydrogen? Well, right now, hydrogen is a very expensive fuel. Right now, there are not enough hydrogen fueling stations, and the fuel cells are expensive. but we use it as a backup energy source. So even though the hydrogen is expensive, we only use a little of it, but it enables and removes the risk of using all that battery down to low state of charge. We want you to come back with the battery depleted every day. That means you've done the most low cost, zero emission miles you could have done for the day. Low cost is very important. You have to drive more miles per day, which compared to the cost of driving a diesel truck, that helps overcome the higher capital cost of an electric truck. The challenge is we have multiple technologies here because we have a whole battery system, but also a whole hydrogen system, and we have to get them to work together and control them. A lot of technology on these trucks, but it's here to solve the problem. Our message to our customers is if the hydrogen truck, basically you don't have any daily range limits. The economics work because you're able to drive more miles per day, and then the green is nice to have. And the best way to sell green technologies is it works better and costs less than the fossil fuel technology. Same with solar panels. When if they're cheaper than grid electricity, that's the best way to sell it.
Okay, perfect. Now, I just wanted to focus back in on Tevva itself and the journey of the company. I know we started with the sort of background of you guys and where you are today, but obviously we're recording this podcast in sort of mid-December. So when you look back on 2022, how has this year been for you guys? What have been some of the significant milestones?
It's been an amazing year for us. I think we grew almost tripled our team members. We're now just on the cusp of receiving European-wide whole vehicle type approval, which will allow us to scale and sell our technologies all across Europe. We're ready. I think your listeners cannot see it, but you're seeing behind us the production system. We make both right-hand and left-hand drive. Great advancement in our technology and building up our production capability. Amazing work by our team coming together. So it was a very, very exciting year. Difficulties coming out of COVID, still COVID a bit there in the background in the earlier part of the year, but we persevered. We spent time earlier in the year in very extreme cold testing in the north part of Finland. In the summer, we were in the Sierra Nevadas in Spain for extreme heat testing. Lots of development in technology. Now we are ready to mass produce our trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you just touched on COVID there, and I know we've just gone over some of the challenges that you've had this year, but across the whole journey and the whole story of Tevva, what have been some of the biggest obstacles that you've had to overcome? Obviously, because it's been a challenging environment for any companies within this industry. Sorry, whether it's semiconductor shortages, fuel crisis, or anything like that. So what have been some of the biggest impacts on your business?
All I can say is nothing we do is easy. Challenges are thrown at us at a daily level, whether it's components, as you said, semiconductors, an example that we're missing. COVID, we started COVID, March 2020, having just finished delivering our first fleet of trucks to UPS. Proudly, those trucks are now in the UPS fleet running daily since. And we learned a lot because that was our previous generation of truck. COVID hit us hard, but actually we managed to turn it around. We were a smaller company, around 40 people, and we managed to turn it around after 5-6 months of furlough, and actually decided now we have to aim for much bigger. So we have to aim for mass production, not building trucks one by one like the previous technology. We moved to a much better dual energy solution and dozens and dozens of other changes and upgrades to our technology. And of course, grew from 40 people to over 300 team members. Also, so started very difficultly, but somehow just good teamwork and great people managed to completely turn it around and reach this great achievement where we are today.
Yeah, well, it's great to see that you guys came out the other side of that, because it was a really difficult time for the industry. But looking ahead now,
I just want to say, you asked about COVID, but it wasn't easy the earlier years of Tevva. To form a company based on an idea, PowerPoint, just under a decade ago, and go out and raise capital. It took a couple of years to raise initial capital. Then we built only a few trucks and prototypes. We very fast got to trucks driving on the road, on public roads, and then we cut a deal with UPS and delivered a demonstration truck for them, fully road legal. So they trialed it for over a year. That led to the initial order. So we had to graduate and grow from prototype to low volume production, all the while running our dual energy approach with the cloud-based system behind it. And then now our newest generation truck that was launched effectively coming out of the first end of shutdowns of COVID.
Yeah, and now here we are today, and as we're about to turn the corner into 2023, what are some of the short-term goals for you as a company? Do you have any specific targets and things you want to achieve? Or
next year, it's about the initially lower volume and then throttling up to higher volume production of our first electric truck, which we now receiving the whole European-wide whole vehicle type approval. Following on that, we're coming out with the 7.5-ton hydrogen, advancing our 19-ton hydrogen truck and the different variants in between. Dozens of internal technologies, and some are boring, from air compressors. You have to get that right to get the truck to work, to, of course, our AI-backed cloud-based systems that making decisions all have to constantly, we're coming out with new solutions and new technologies around that. The growth of our supply chain and working with our suppliers, it doesn't, and there's a lot of work to do. It's challenging, but it wouldn't be fun waking up in the morning if it wasn't challenging. It's just a great time to do what we are doing. There's huge demand for zero-emission trucks. We have big customers from across Europe and actually outside Europe as well, just waiting for us to produce and deliver our trucks. But they all want zero emission, but they also want zero emission that doesn't hurt their daily operations and is cost effective. But it's a great time to do what we're doing.
That's all for this episode. Many thanks for listening, and if you liked it, then please do check out all our other episodes and be sure to subscribe to wherever you get your podcast from to make sure you get every single episode as soon as it's released. For daily news coverage, features and much more, you can also head over to evpowered.co.uk. Thanks once again for listening, and we'll see you on the very next episode of the Everything EV podcast.